A very good day to you. Welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadil Kabira. I'm usually glad that you join us every single time we have these political conversations which I hope will build this country even after we have done our polls. And yes, we're continuing with the case on the Supreme Court. I'm joined by Herman Manyora. Sir, how are you doing today?
Good, full of vibes. Some guys are saying Manyora squeeze hata ile the way he normally punches. Hey, he's not doing that.
Wanasema mlikuwa mnakunywa studio chai sana.
Yani watu wanatusumbua. Hata nikikunywa chai yangu hapo wanasema ni ya studio.
Let's talk about a rerun, the occasion of a rerun. Senior Counsel Abed Nasir Abdullahi, the Grand Mullah, says if there is a rerun, the elections will be held on 2025. Says Uhuru and Odinga will cause delays, saying the IEBC cannot hold an election. So we should not be happy if there is a rerun because Uhuru will continue being president. What do you make of such statements?
It's pointless. Yeah. Even if Raila and Uhuru wanted it, it would be pointless. I appeared before a parliamentary select committee whose sole purpose seems to have been to ensure Isaac Hassan was kicked out. And I was the only man in the county who said no. They came for my neck. They said, you are wrong. We are here to find out the exit. Jimmy Angwenyi, the vice chair, who was now in chairing, the co-chair, came to my rescue. Orengo had walked out. I mean, he was not in the room. Who was the other co-chair, I think? Was it Orengo somebody? Yeah. He said, the guy is right. In our terms of reference, there's no way insisting that people will come here to discuss how to exit the IEBC of Isaac Hassan. So let him say. Now, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say it is not a question of the commissioners. It's a question of how you operate with the commissioners. For example, I said, I can't remember what article, but it's on my email because I sent my contribution. There's an article that suggests or provides that IEBC may seek assistance.
Okay.
From whatever, if they want assistance, perhaps from parliament or whatever. I said you can use that provision. And then you get, for example, now we know there are two parties. There's Raila and there is William Ruto.
Yeah.
Each of them provides 5 people to work with IEBC. You see? Because if you just do it, they'll say you are interfering with an independent commission. But if it is a commission that has asked in court, we know this is the one way of solving. So to me, it's not a question of changing the commission. It's a question of the two main parties, each with 3, 4, or 5 people, working with IEBC on specific issues and looking at the register, voters register. And then on specific issues. At that time, I was saying a new voter register. I was rubbish in the studio by Khalwale. He said Nigeria had audited its register. It was better than even a new register. Time has proved him wrong. And he was a member of that committee. I said the next thing would be if you now, Raila and the rest are working with IEBC, is by a question of procurement. What are you procuring? From where? You see?
Yes.
It is a question of what technology do we need and why do we need that particular technology? Where do we source it from? And then the usual operations, day-to-day operations. For example, just say there's an issue about returning officers. If Raila and Ruto were there, they will issue that issue will be sorted out on the desk. Yeah, that's what the Supreme Court should do.
When you say, you've said this several times,
yes.
When the Supreme Court gives its verdict on this case,
yes.
They should punish the culprits.
Correct. That's another thing they should do.
Now, if punishing the culprit means someone like Wafula Chebukati is punished, what does this mean? Should we now reconstitute the IEBC? And does this mean we will not just have the 60 days that is provided in the Constitution? You know,
reconstituting the IEBC, I'm saying, may not be necessary. You just make corrections. Yeah, these are simple things to correct. And you remember, I pointed out, including Twitter, when IEBC invites Kina Raila, they send a crowd there. You saw my tweet?
Yes.
They send a crowd. They are using a microphone to talk. That is stupid. Allow me to use the word stupid. Okay. You send 2, 3 people and they address specific issues, not a crowd. So even this Kina Raila, they can't know how to handle IEBC. You send Manyora and another person. Tunashika Chebukati mpaka tunafanya what we need to do. Not a crowd. What? No. So this time if Raila gives 4 people or 5, Ruto 4 or 5, forget about these other wannabes. They work with IBC. There is nothing Chebukati will do. The election will just be. So the Supreme Court can make a finding that they didn't do the thing well. But because of the 60 days, in order not to mess the timelines in the Constitution, okay?
Yeah.
The remedy would be for the Supreme Court to supervise the election. That the Supreme Court can offer some kind of supervisory role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which includes the registrar of the Supreme Court doing certain things with her team, which includes the registrar of the High Court, of the judiciary. She's called Amadi, yeah?
Yes.
Because like she does during a petition, she can take part in the actual election.
Okay.
And she could invite 3, 4, 5 people from both sides. And they run this election seamlessly.
Now,
this is a simple thing.
Talk to me now about, we have also the other situation, the other scenario of a recount. Raila wants a recount. They want him to be declared president because they say they have evidence. If there's a recount and there's manipulation in this election, does this mean that it might not favor Raila?
If you want Raila declared the winner, and I don't know why they have put that prayer very much inside their prayers. It should have been top on the list.
Okay.
Like some lawyer was telling me today.
Yeah.
I don't know which the court will do first. Because if you start with looking at illegalities and irregularities, and you find they were substantive enough for you to declare the election
Yeah.
null and void,
Yeah.
then you cannot again bring recount.
Okay.
Unless you start with recount and say, we have sorted out this issue. Hata hakuna mambo ngine ya kutafutilia. Through a recount, Raila has won. Declare him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you start with chokoraring inside to find how badly this election was run, then you must arrive at the conclusion, well, there were issues, but on that basis alone, we could not have nullified this election.
Yeah.
Regardless, again, I'm there,
Yeah.
of the fact that there were irregularities and illegalities. We don't think we could have nullified this election because of those, including the interferences. However, upon recount, Raila has won, so we now give him.
What is the best situation for a recount for you? Is it bringing the ballot papers and starting afresh?
No.
Or is it Form 34?
Just Form 34, the proper original to Form 34s, Form 34B, and then Form 34C, and whoever wins, if it is Raila, then he's declared the winner.
But based on elections being rigged at polling stations, does this mean that Form 34B, it might find still Ruto is the president?
34A.
34B now,
Yes,
34A,
Yes.
because elections were rigged at the polling station.
But you see, by now, by the time you go to court to order that, you must be aware of that.
Yeah.
I'm not part of Raila team, so if the lawyers are sure that they will lose by the count on 34A, why would they bother about that prayer? That prayer wouldn't be necessary.
If you are in Raila's team,
Yes.
how would you create this petition? Do you think, as it is, it's good to make a case? And what is the future now, as they're going to be heard in the Supreme Court? How would you lead that team if you were there?
If I was a lawyer, I should say, if I were a lawyer, because I'm not one, I would try to draw a distinction. Because there are 3 clear things in this case. One is how it was conducted. 2 is the tallying, which is a question of recount. 3 is whether or not any one of these fellows hit the 50 plus 1%. So now I will have to look at which of these 3 best suits me if I'm the lead counsel.
Okay.
For which one can I make an impeccable case? If I am sure, as Umtata Umkia is sure, that Ruto did not meet 50%, then I'll put all my arsenal there and prove to the court. Because now they have the figures, they should know.
Yes.
And then, if he didn't meet the 50%, then you go back to a rerun. But again, it is tricky because you will need to go into how the election was conducted, if you are Raila Odinga, and that's where the lawyer is coming in, to show malpractices, fraud, attempted fraud, you know,
Yeah.
theft if you wish, so that you now use this in a rerun.
Okay.
Because the question of Ruto having stolen the election would have to feature prominently in the Raila campaign in the event of a rerun. So as a lawyer, I will look at all this and see which one I will put ahead.
How about the Venezuelan case now? The DCI being told to appear to provide evidence, some reports of what they were doing within the IEBC. Does that hold water for you? Will it make a case?
The case of the Venezuelan judge is difficult. It may not be as simple as AZIMIO think. Because what IEBC will need to do is to establish that they were working for them. Now, if they are working for IEBC, the things they were found with are the tools of trade. Yeah. If they had infrastructure, if they had access to IEBC, those are the tools of trade. What then AZIMIO will have to do, I hope we are not going into the merits of the case.
Yes.
Because we don't want to get into trouble.
Sub judice, they call it.
Yeah. But I see in America, people talk about these things badly. So I don't know, well, we'll have to change our rules. Because the world again has changed.
Yes.
Access to information. You have no control over social media. So even if you stop one man from talking about the case.
But I think it's just for
And
the
I saw
lawyers.
Grand Mullah saying he was going to have a blow-by-blow analysis. So I don't know how that is
I think it's
treated.
for the lawyers.
For us, I hope they should understand.
Yeah.
So the Venezuelan case, one would have to argue strongly that whereas it is quite in order for them to have access and the infrastructure for access to the IEBC, that should have stopped it at some point. Should have stopped at some point. If you are building something for me, I put things on Amazon for people. If you write a book, I can put for you on Amazon. I open it for you, I open the account and everything. But I must surrender the password to you.
Yeah.
So that it becomes your account. Unless it's under my global account. But if it is yours, just your one book, after I have done everything, it is now clear. You have to change the password so that it becomes yours. It's like when you get a PIN generated for you,
Yes.
either by a bank or whatever, they ask you to change the PIN immediately.
Oh, yeah.
The point I'm trying to make therefore is that argument that they were working for IEBC will not stand because at that late, by around 25th when they were arrested, I think, with about 2 weeks to an election, how did they still have access to the IEBC servers and everything? By that time, IEBC should have taken the control of the systems before an election. So that when you need them, they come in.
Yeah.
But not that they have the back end access to your system. Then what election are you going to conduct? And you can't argue they were yet to do it because we are talking about 2 weeks to an election.
Yeah.
A lot could be done during that time. So if they argue successfully
Yes.
that whereas they may have, if they can prove to have been employees of Smartmatic, it was proper for them to have the access and the infrastructure, the laptops and everything that DCI has. It was suspect that they had this access right up to the election. IBC ought to have taken control of the systems and changed the passwords and entries so that these guys couldn't, unless you needed them for a technical purpose.
Of course,
So if they argue like that, I'm not a lawyer,
Yeah.
but if they argue like that, and by the way, if I went to court, if I was allowed to argue my case, I'll make a very serious case argument in court. Very serious. Mpaka hata majaji wataniangalia, so this is another mkio mtata.
But I guess for these cases, most of them will have to see the evidence that AZIMIO will provide.
You see, again, the question of evidence, I don't know how the AZIMIO case has been put. I've read it. But you see, the Supreme Court have argued repeatedly, including here with you and on my videos. And, you know, the Supreme Court is not an ordinary court. This is a political court.
Yeah.
So, it's enough for you to show the court that this election is not quite what it should be. And so you put your narration and your case must be so convincing that the judges may not bother so much about the real evidence. You know,
So the narrative first,
a good narrative.
before the case.
Then that narrative, then you can splash a few
Evidence.
pieces of evidence here and there. Kama kuweka tu kachumbari wakati unakula nyama. Lakini nyama is a narrative you have.
Okay.
That this election could not have been an election. I saw an attempt of that from the 72-page petition. But if you are going to rely on evidence, my friend, is enough to see that there were more presidential votes than for all the other positions in Kiambu. But to show the evidence to the court is another matter. Because in 2017, the guys who were caught red, they couldn't answer in court.
Yes.
You think they are that stupid? They have prepared themselves, assuming they had inflated the presidential ballot. They are ready with that. Maybe they have already stuffed those empty, blank ballots in the boxes. You get it?
Yeah,
so evidence is not a very easy thing to get. But if I'm the lawyer, like you asked me earlier on, I will be aware this is not an ordinary court. This is a political court. So I'll be making a political argument in court. Okay? Laced with a few legal things and evidence here and there. But a very strong narrative is what I would do.
Okay, we'll have to wait hearing this case starting tomorrow until we do have these conversations again. Thank you so much. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day.